64% of CEOs are actively championing AI in their organisation, but only 13% of them are actively using it in their organisation. And 70% of junior team members are running the tools every day, with no oversight, no guardrails, and nobody checking their output. What could possibly go wrong? I'm Chris Norton, and this is Embracing Marketing Mistakes, the show that teaches you growth from failure. We are still live from the AI for PR conference on the South Bank of London, and we've got two more conversations with one strong question running all the way through it. What's the gap between AI ambition and AI execution? Stuart Bruce is back on the show, my old boss, and I managed to grab him and a deep dive into Copilot and some of the top tips and tricks that you can use for Copilot, because he heard a lot of people slating Copilot. And we've got Daryl Sperry, MD of Hard Numbers, who invited me down for the whole conference. So, as always, sit back, relax, and let's get into AI, PR, and marketing. Enjoy. Right, Stuart Bruce, welcome back to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
In this brief, you're not even on the speaking list today. What's happened, Stuart? You used to be on every speaking.
I know, I've been shunned. It's all over. No, it's actually really good fun being at a conference where you don't need to kind of think about, oh God, what am I going to say? How am I going to prepare? Yeah. And just be able to sit down and absorb stuff.
Yeah. Have you read the book then, or are you going to read the book?
I have the book, and I have read some of the chapters.
Okay.
But despite the fact I ordered it ages ago, my physical copy only arrived this week.
Ooh.
I've had my digital one for over a month, and I prefer to read the paper one, so that's the reason I've not read it.
I'm with you on that, because you can pick it up with books like that, like the social media handbook one we wrote ages ago. When you need to do them in bits. You can't. They're not it's not a gripping story, is it?
No, exactly. So yeah, funny. I read fiction on my Kindle, but work-related books I prefer paper.
Yeah, me too. So what have you been up to then? We haven't seen you for about a year on the podcast. What have you been doing?
Mega busy, and so last year was all about AI adoption, basically helping in-house teams, agencies use AI.
Yeah.
This year it's all about AI as a stakeholder, or generative engine optimization, if you want to take a simplistic view of it. And it's quite a controversial position about which of the two it is.
Yeah, I know. I've spoken to Johnny on this podcast, and he said he didn't care which one it was, AEO, GEO. But what I did like, just before we came down here, Stuart, is that you told me that I was best practice. Not me personally. The agent prohibition have got good GEO, which is good, because that's what we do, isn't it? And it's what you do.
Yep.
So, and I like the fact that you used us as an example of best practice. That's good. So thanks for doing that.
No, but it's true. When I was kind of doing my experiments, it was just kind of. But we're actually only half surprised, because you've always been good at SEO.
I'd love to know what you picked out as holes on what we do, and then you can tell me, and I'll get that re-optimized. Because it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? It's like painting the Brooklyn Bridge. Is it the Brooklyn Bridge?
Brooklyn Bridge, or the Fourth Road Bridge.
Fourth Road Bridge, that's it.
But the thing is, I mean, I think there's a bit of cobbler's children about it, because we've been so busy doing this type of stuff with clients that our own website is far from perfect.
It's not that bad though. I read your newsletter.
Oh yeah, no, the newsletter works well, and the newsletter is really good. But the actual website is, we've only just added schema to it.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of other things that could be kind of put on there.
I need to update my schema. It's a pain in the arse, but it works, doesn't it? So we were just, before we came down here, you were talking about Copilot, and you had a rant about Copilot.
Oh yes.
So I'm intrigued, because I've got a view on it. So give me your rant.
Well, I can rant away. So we had at least two people on stage, probably more, kind of making disparaging remarks about it.
Okay.
And to be blunt, that probably says more about them than it does about Copilot, because the reality is, in a corporate environment, that's what people are going to need to use. You can't be at the cutting edge. That's just it's just not an option. And if you actually spend enough time learning how to use Copilot properly and kind of push it to its parameters of what it can do, it simply isn't true that it's kind of not as good. In fact, for a lot of things, it's a lot better. Well, the reason it's a lot better is because what Microsoft called work IQ. And that basically means it's grounded in your data.
Context.
Yeah, context.
Yeah.
So if you say, and the best example of that is if you compare using Claude standalone or Claude within Copilot, the answer of Claude within Copilot is mind-blowingly better, because when you ask it to go off and do a research project or something, it already knows the types of things you're interested in. So it actually without you telling it, it researches the stuff that's relevant to you. So, if you were doing it in another tool externally, or even if you were using something like Perplexity, you'd probably have follow-up questions, or you'd have to try harder to write a detailed prompt. But if it already knows everything about you, you don't need to.
So you're using Co-work inside Copilot?
So two things.
It's brand new, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So we've been using it for about 3 months.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can have, there's something called Frontier program that
There's
you can
like a
sign
beta.
into.
It's a beta, isn't it?
Yeah. So we signed up for that 3 months ago. So we've been using it quite extensively.
But isn't it really expensive?
Well, in the Frontier program, it was free. And for those of us that joined it, it's still free till the 1st of July. Okay. So I'm about to get my money's worth before
I'd love to know how many tokens you're using, because that's the issue. Because there was a couple of people that did say some interesting things on stage today. Because someone mentioned loops, which is the big thing in California at the moment. These loops where you use loops to iteratively improve your prompt.
Yeah.
So it's literally improving the conversation, and it's self-improvement, which some would say is moving towards AGI, because it's improving itself. Now, I find that interesting, and you can do that in Co-work, and in theory you can do it. But I've heard that the price, I know that's this because I got it from my IT people on Thursday, the pricing model of Copilot is on tokens, and it's predicted tokens. They don't know.
Yeah.
So
yes,
it's hard
so there's
there's
a pay-as-you-go model.
Yeah.
So, and you can set caps by user, by group, or by tenant.
Yeah.
So you're not going to accidentally spend money. And then Microsoft created a spreadsheet, which, if anything, I think overestimates what it's going to cost. Because realistically, not everybody in a company or a team is a heavy user or a cutting-edge user. So most are going to have a lower level of use than Microsoft spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And the spreadsheet, it shows it's going to be something between 85 to 140 quid a month per user. For what it can do, that's actually not that expensive. Give you one practical example. We ran
85 to repeat that?
85 to 145 pounds a month for the tokens.
That is such a big gap, though.
Yeah, because it's the 145 is for a really heavy user.
Like me.
Possibly not. You might be even higher than that, so I might be even higher.
Right.
But for your average heavy user.
Right.
But just to give one example of how that would, get its money back. We organised a invite-only breakfast recently with Simon Bohr, former chief executive of the Government Communications Service. And we sent out the invites in HubSpot so we could track the opens and everything. As the replies came back in, Copilot Co-work intercepted them. It filed them into one of 3 folders, yes, no, out of office, so they could get a reminder, which it did. It then added all the names to the spreadsheets. If there were things like a job title missing, it would go off and research the job title and populate that column in the spreadsheet.
I love Co-work.
Then it generated the name band. It basically did all of the admin tasks for the breakfast. Now, we sometimes use a kind of virtual PA. If we'd have been paying them to do it, that would have been several hours' work.
Unless they were using.
Yeah, unless they were using. Now, the difference between the two is if the virtual PA, you wouldn't have needed to check their work. Because you trust them, you know them, so you don't need to check it. But then again, if they were new, you wouldn't. you wouldn't be able to do that. You would have to check it. Whereas with the co-work stuff, you did. And it was I would have said it was 85-90% accurate. And sometimes it confused you by what it did. So for example, one person replied to say they couldn't do it because they sent a colleague, and it drafted an email accepting it, and it knew that. So in the notes field, it said that's why this person was on the list, even though they weren't invited.
Amazing.
And because some of the integrations don't work, it couldn't. It tried to update HubSpot. but because we hadn't given it
access. MCP access.
Yeah. So it actually said, you need to update
Connect it. Yeah. It does that to me. I tell you what's weird. I mean, we're talking about Copilot here, but Claude, I think I said this to Andrew, is the way it talks to me. I said something the other week to it, and it went, on it, mate. But he goes, what else? He said, on it, mate, and it said, it talks in like, I don't know if it's mirroring your language and how I'd speak.
But that's the other thing. So the model I use most is Claude within Copilot.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't used, so I've got Copilot, I've got Gemini, I've got Cowork, I've got Claude, obviously, and a bit of Perplexity, and I test them all for different things, research. I wanted I now feel like Cowork's going to be a waste in Copilot, because I've got Cowork in the other. Have you got scheduled tasks in Copilot Cowork?
Yes.
Right.
So
okay.
that breakfast example, that was how that worked, is every morning it would kind of do a sweep of the emails that had come in.
Yeah.
And then do the replies and everything.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? So what are your hot tips on Copilot then, to how to get the most out of Copilot? Because there'll be people out there, right, that have got, like marketing people, that they've been given a license, they probably use it on the meeting notes, and they probably use it like a chat bot. Yeah,
we have clients at the moment where they've been given licenses. They might have been given training on how to use Copilot, but because it's not embedded in comms and corporate affairs and communications, sometimes they struggle to see how you can make it relevant. So the way to approach it is to do the list of things you want it to do, and then work out whether that's possible to get it to do it. Because very often the answer is yes. Yeah, I know. Because that guy I was telling you about, who shall remain nameless on this podcast, told me that Copilot was just ChatGPT light, and it isn't as good. And I said, I beg to differ there, mate. Because I said, I think some of maybe the results, and comparing the models, right, like Mythos or Fable now, that we haven't got, that I had for 48 hours and is now gone again. My issue is the worst models that we've got now are pretty good. 100%. So I get really frustrated by people chasing the latest. I mean, Anne Gregory talked about it on the panel this morning. The latest shiny tools. They really don't matter. 80-90% of PR people aren't even touching the edges of what a tool a year old could do.
No, true.
So the idea that you need to do this cutting edge stuff is ridiculous. You basically, is it going to have an impact on clients? Or if you're in-house, is it going to have an impact on your kind of internal stakeholders and colleagues? And you don't need the latest shiny tools to do that. And the thing about Copilot is some of the things that people criticize it for are actually its strengths. Because the reason the guardrails are there is if you are working for a pharma company or government or financial services, you need them. And it basically takes away the worry. Yeah. You know, you can stop thinking about those things as much because it's doing it for you.
And you might have used it 2 years ago, right? We should have got this episode sponsored by Copilot. And you might have used it like 2 years ago and thought, oh, it's pretty crap. Whereas in actual fact, it's the latest version of Chat. It's about a day behind ChatGPT. They update it, and so it's 5. We're on 5 or 6. Exactly like you said.
They roll when a new model comes out, it gets incorporated the same day.
But that's why Microsoft have moved to work with Claude as well. They're diversifying their AIs because, and this is the rumor that Microsoft are working on their own lab, because they're making so much money out of it. It's going to be very interesting.
Well, at the Build conference, they launched a whole range of kind of their own AI models. There's also talk of using their own version of DeepSeek to power Copilot Cowork.
That worries me, that.
But it doesn't, because the whole point is because it's open source. If you're running it on your own servers, there's no reason for it to. They're basically just taking it and kind of running their own version of it. So it means they can do so cheaper. But also the token cost of Cowork in Copilot is cheaper than Claude's token costs. And it was one of these kind of statements in the launch where you had to kind of read it about 5 times to understand what it meant. Yeah. But crudely, it's for 2 reasons. Is one, Microsoft are buying it at wholesale cost. So, they're passing on some of that discount to customers. But the other one is it's not just pure Claude that you're using. It is optimized for Copilot and mixed.
Yeah.
So therefore it's more efficient. Yeah.
It's in your environment and it can see your stuff. And that is like you said, the only thing I do have some reservations with Copilot, because for instance, I'll ask it to find me, because it sounds brilliant. They go, you can search your emails, you can search your folders, which you can do in Cowork as well, by the way, Claude the original. But sometimes I find its search is a bit shit. I don't find it's as good as it's meant to be. Like it'll look for things and doesn't quite find it and put it together the way if you just researched it yourself.
It can be a bit of hit and miss.
Yeah.
But that's partially because people have built really bad historic SharePoint sites. So we're just doing a project at the moment where a client has migrated from Dropbox to SharePoint. So we're expecting that to work far better, because it's not quite perfect, because you couldn't get the migration perfect, but it is better than what a lot of people have. I mean, our own version, because our SharePoint dates back to 2011, so to say that it is a mess is the understatement of the century. So it's perhaps not surprising that Copilot sometimes struggles to make sense of it. And there are things we could do to tidy it up. And interestingly, now we've got Cowork, you might actually be able to use Cowork to tidy it up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what I did straight away, first day I had it, was remove all duplicates. I'd done some duplicate, and there's about 40 gigs worth of duplicate images and all sorts on the machine. It instantly removed them all and sorted out and reduced my capacity on my laptop. And it helps, it's good.
Well, while we've still got the free version, because we were the frontier model, so before the 1st of July, my intention is to try to make a better version of SharePoint.
It's like your own version of Independence Day, the 4th of July, wasn't it?
So there's a bit of a rush to get it done.
So your hot tip then for if marketing people in-house, if they want to get the most out of Copilot, how do they do that?
First, be crystal clear about what it is they want, but also there's no kind of one. It's a bit like kind of Dave Beresford, and kind of the
minimal gains.
Marginal gains.
Marginal gains.
Yeah, there's 101 small things that once you've done them, you get much better results. Like the number of times you go in and look at people's Copilot setup, and they haven't personalised it. There's a whole section where you can tell it what type of answer you want. You can teach it your writing style. And the best way to do that is actually to use an agent to analyse your writing. So you don't have to tell it what style you want to get it to understand your style and then write instructions for it. But you go in and people haven't done that. And the frustrating thing is, it's part of the onboarding. You get told to do it, but people just skip past it and don't do it.
I have to do all those videos.
Yeah. That would be it's 101 little things. There's not kind of a big magic wand.
But it'll certainly. So I asked my. We've had it for. We had all the tools paid for separately, and then we embedded it in the agency. So everybody in my agency, pretty much, I think 90%. I didn't push it on anyone. I was asking them what they wanted to use, and then most of the Copilot. Then I did a load of training. I trained the team up, and I did a sort of a straw poll the other day, and pretty much 90%. Only one person said they weren't using it regularly. They're using it daily. Most of them are using it regularly every day, which shows you how important it is.
So one of the things you can do with Copilot is you can actually go into the dashboard and see how people are using it.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is kind of really helpful.
I had already done that, but I want to ask them as well.
But the second thing is lots of people start using AI in companies as individuals. And the real power is when you use it as a team. So things like in Copilot, it used to be called the Prompt Gallery, but they've just renamed it back to its own old name, which was a Prompt Lab. So it used to be called Prompt Lab, then they called it Prompt Gallery, which was a good name.
Yeah.
Now they've called it Prompt Lab again. Lord knows why. But people don't use it. So if you create prompts, you can then share them with your team.
Oh, right, because I created a GPT, custom GPT, whatever you call them in that. Agents, they call them in there, which is confusing because agents is something else as well. Anyway, I created a prompt agent, so it will master your prompt for you. So you write your prompt, put it in there, and I shared that with my team. But now you're saying there's something that then when you've got an excellent one, you can stick it in a library within your, so you can all use it, which is brilliant, actually. I didn't know that. That's
and that's an example of there's loads of stuff that people just don't use.
Yeah. And basically that's because Microsoft haven't done a brilliant job of communicating it.
Well, it doesn't help that they've got like something like 70 or 80 products called Copilot.
Yeah, well, that's what I actually thought that's what you were going to rant about. Right, dear, what's he called? It's not Bill, not Mr. Gates. Dear Microsoft, please can you remove Copilot from every single application and have it in one thing that does all of them? I don't understand why you've got to have Copilot in Outlook,
well,
Copilot
that is actually
in
what
Excel.
they've just announced.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, it isn't, because the whole point being is the rationale to it is meant to be frictionless.
Yeah.
You don't. Other AI tools force you to think about using AI, whereas the whole point about Copilot is you don't need to. It's there when you need it.
Yeah.
So you don't need to come out of your workflow. It doesn't need to stop your brain. You can just, it's there, ready.
But then the best part of it is a separate app on the desktop app that you download from Microsoft.
Yeah, but you can do most. Well, for one thing is they're now making them the same. So that's not.
So what are they going to do? Have I literally given them an idea and they've just turned it around before we've finished this podcast?
No, they've been doing. They've already done that.
Right.
So you've already. But at the moment, because of the way they roll stuff out, it's not synced. So because they've just launched a new user interface for the desktop or the web version, it hasn't filtered through.
Yeah.
In fact, my desktop hasn't even. I don't even have the new interface yet, which is a bit frustrating because other people on our tenant do.
I've got it.
Yeah. And I'm meant to be doing training next week.
What were you saying about you don't like the shiny new toys?
Well, I can't train people on something old, which is all I've got.
Okay. I haven't prepped you on this one, but this show's about mistakes. Have you made any mistakes in the last couple of years since we've been on the show? Anything that you'd like to share that won't get you in trouble with legal?
I'm always making mistakes. Let me think of a recent one. I can't actually think of a recent one. There must be. So obviously I can't name the client.
Yeah, that's fine.
But that situation where you have a client that kind of sends you an email and tells you how brilliant the work you've just presented is and how well your presentation went down.
Yeah.
And then you send them the invoice and they kind of come back and say, where did all these expenses come from? But literally, the really big bit, they didn't quibble in the slightest because they thought the work was brilliant.
Yeah.
The bit where in the contract it said we were going to charge expenses.
Yeah.
That is literally the only bit they're quibbling. And I think the big mistake there is remember to tell them in advance.
Yeah, manage expectations.
Yeah.
That's the key to all client relationships. Expectation management. If you can under-promise and over-deliver.
Yeah. When I had a team, that would have happened automatically. But when you're a small business, I remember we talked about it, but then nobody actually did it.
Yeah, it's like, I tell you what it is like. Have you seen? I don't know if you know this, but we've always paid the maximum for petrol at Prohibition, but the government in the last couple of months have upped it to 55 pence, and we were like, well, that's fine, but I don't think clients will pay that. And then we started discussing, hang on, do we even claim travel anymore off clients? Like some on projects, because I've got a video team, they're flying around we do charge mileage, but then it's an interesting debate. Like, should you charge mileage if you're charging a fee for working together?
It depends. It depends on your contract. There's no right or wrong answer. But that's another use of Copilot. So people forget to record mileage. You can get Copilot to go through Outlook and identify all your meetings where it looks like you've driven.
No.
So, yeah.
Oh, that is a hot tip. Yeah. So you identify all your. So what would be the prompt there?
You literally just say this. Can you list all my meetings where I've driven in the last 6 months or the last quarter, and put them into an Excel spreadsheet, and it will do it. And then you can check that they're in your account system. Then
I need to do that for all the meetings that I have about bloody AI.
The reason it might not work is if you haven't put enough detail into your meeting.
Yeah. I need to do that. Well, that's great, Stuart. Thanks for coming on the show. Shout out to PR Andy Barr. Hi everybody, I'm PR Andy Barr. If you don't know what I do, check out this. Anyway, the podcast thing sort of got us behind the mic and kind of in front of the camera.
Yeah.
But it's I'm still not used to doing like pieces to camera where you're like a BBC broadcaster.
Yeah.
Do you do much?
So actually, my business partner, I'm invited to speak or get interviewed on a lot of podcasts, but my business partner Paul's got just launched his own podcast, Beneath the Surface, which is all about what actually makes AI tick. How does it work? How does Gen AI work? All that kind of stuff. Released the first episode very recently, went really well. So, we'll be doing more of that in the not too distant future.
Podcasting, marketing is an interesting medium.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So obviously we're at this conference today. I've spoken to quite a few of the people. What bit you're doing the fighting talk section, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So
are you fighting the cause for SEOs though?
I am. I know, right? Boo. I know. So I think my premise though is there are a spoiler for what I'm going to say later. Okay. There are 5 trillion reasons why you can't ignore Google. Johnny was up on stage just now saying the front door of the internet is Gen AI. It's not, it's still Google, right? And even when you see Gen AI search results within, within the platforms, they're formulated from an internet search. Yeah. So obviously Google AI Overviews, AI Mode, Gemini all use Google. Claude uses Brave, ChatGPT uses Bing. So, where you rank on traditional search engines still helps influence where you appear on AI search. So, you can't ignore SEO and you can't pretend like it doesn't exist. It's a key input into the bigger, the bigger thing of AI search.
Well, I've got several friends who work in SEO, and there's a guy I know. He's very good at SEO, and he lost in about November, December time. Mm-hmm. He lost about 80% of his clients, and he was getting a bit worried. He works for himself, but he's really good at what he does, so he's always busy. Yeah. His clients are all e-commerce stores, right? So they make money by search. Anyway, this thing had come out. Claude Co-work had come out. Right. Other AIs are available. Yeah. But they were all saying, "Oh, we can do our SEO ourselves now." Because when I ask I don't look at. I'll use some agents. I'll look at the pages. Right. I'll assess the pages. And I get an excellent, correct, Daryl, here's your report. These are the things that are good. These are the things that are bad. You need to optimize this and they'll change. And guess what happened?
Tanked.
4 months later, 80%, 9 out of 10 of those clients, say 90%, have all come back to him because all their stores were tanking financially. And that's because the internet, us people that are good at what they do, so PRs, I'm talking about digital PRs, I'm talking about traditional PRs, I'm talking about SEOs, they don't write their best techniques and tactics online and share everything. It's kept in a little black box because that's what makes it work. The internet is full of all this stuff that's best practice supposedly, but actually the best practice that it's learning from is out of date and isn't as good as the actual secret source. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, 100%. Great point. So I got a mate from the Northeast. He had an argument with his old man once. And his old man, he said, you're older. I won't try and do the accent. You're older than me, you're slower than me, you're fatter than me, or whatever, and you've shown me all your tricks. So I could take you in a fight. And his old man just leaned back really sagely, tapped his nose and went, "You never show anyone all your tricks, son." And I think exactly the same as you, right? No one's sharing, for us, we've learned loads about GEO, AI search, all the rest of it from the research reports we've done as far back as October 2024. And we've shared loads publicly about what we've learned, all the rest of it. We wrote a 3,000 word blog
report.
That you can download.
We've referenced it on the podcast before.
bit.ly/GEO4PR.
Nice plug.
Thank you. I do this for a living.
That's what I said on my question. Carry on.
But 100%. We're not going to tell everyone everything of what we do, and obviously we're going to, I think the other point that you're making, and we have this with clients, and I really want to impress this about anyone who listens to this. We have clients who come to us and say, we don't need you to write content for us anymore because we just get AI to do it for us. And I'm like, I can give you, case study after case study after case study of people who got sold on by GEO bros of, you just talk
10x your agency.
Yeah, exactly, right? On all this stuff, right? And you can just run your agency on autopilot, all that stuff, right? Fast forward 4 months, and they've had a massive Google penalty, and they're wiped off the face of the internet, basically. And guess what? If you don't rank on Google, it's very hard to get found by AI search. So couldn't agree with you more, mate. Could not agree with you more.
So your argument for the SEO guys is we still need SEO. SEO is not dead. I have to agree. I do think it's changed. I actually think, I was telling some of the other guys that I've interviewed, I used to teach on the PR degree in Leeds, and I taught on the degree for about 6 years, right? Yeah. So I had different people, and I'd take them through to the final year. Yeah. I was out part-time. I also ran Prohibition at the same time. And then we get to the final year, and the best ones would come and work for me. And then, but also, all the others, what I noticed was, as SEO became more and more prolific, because mine was the digital, I taught the digital stuff. Yeah. The SEO agencies were the #1 recruiters of all the PR. Yeah. That's where all the talent was going. And I think that's basically, I'm thinking that's what's going to happen here. If we don't get our shit together, and the industry, like people like yourself, people like who us up north, if you're making a big song and dance about the opportunity that it is, that GEO has got a massive opportunity for marketing professionals, but the PR industry is not good at its own PR. It's not.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree with you more. And look, you and I have similar experience. You know, I worked in the SEO industry for a couple of years, and you know, I saw the same thing happen. And the reason I went to go and work in the SEO industry is that I saw that the work that PR people were doing, they would do, the SEO industry would do like 4 times the output. Yeah. Right? I mean, very often for like 50% of the budget. But, you know, any time you questioned like anything in terms of what's this move for the business, how has this impacted us, what's the ROI from this, the SEO folks could give you, 15 pages on what keywords had improved as a result, what was your average domain authority, what was backlinks from places you hadn't had backlinks for, blah, 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 blah. You know, whereas the PR industry would turn up with a stack of clippings saying our cumulative impressions was 17 billion, right?
Yeah, that's a great one, right? Because at Prohibition we've got we use the AMEC Barcelona principles. Yeah. We're doing GEO. We do measure. Obviously, we're optimizing a lot of our stuff. But how are we measuring? Before, the magic the secret sauce in SEO was domain authority, backlinks, average share of search, whatever you want to call it. So what is it with GEO then? Because there's that many different. We're in the Betamax VHS era. How are you now, to reverse this question back to what you're just talking about? How are you now demonstrating? This is what you do. So demonstrating impact from doing some from PR today. How are you justifying that?
Given that I run a business called Hard Numbers, it would be surprising if I said gut feel. So
that's why I'm asking you the question.
So look, what we do is, so firstly, Johnny Bentwood from Golin, who I will be fighting with verbally, metaphorically later.
A boxing match would be good.
But I've got my gloves with me. Is a bit bearish on prompt monitoring tools, and I know other people in the SEO digital space are as well. I am more pro prompt monitoring as a thing, right? Yeah. Share a model by product, service, category, whatever. If you write good prompts, most people write very short prompts that don't have within them the who. They're like, who is the customer persona, right? Which creates the personalisation, which obviates slightly the personalisation problem of if 2 different people put a search into ChatGPT, they get 2 different results. So the who, the what they're looking for in as natural language as possible, based on traditional search volume, because it's the only place we can get, traditional Google search volume, because it's the only place we can get data about how people search for things online at scale. And then the why, like what is the criteria that they are applying to making a decision here, right? But the who, the what, and the why, you then get more repeatable results from those prompts, and then you run those prompts over a longer period of time, and then you do your analysis based on that. That's one key input, and I am actually more pro it than a lot of other professionals are. The thing that blows my mind is how all these tools, Profounds and all of that other stuff, ignore Google Analytics. The first thing we do when we get a GEO brief from someone is we've got a tailored report that we've produced, which we just plug into a client's Google Analytics that just looks at where are they currently, what AI search platforms are they currently getting traffic from over what period of time, and then to what target landing pages on their website. And then you can reverse engineer the target landing pages that stuff's going to well, what are the things that people must be searching or putting into AI search to then deliver them to those
reverse
target landing pages. Yeah, right.
Okay.
To those target landing pages. So, and then you can get, obviously always, from anyone we look at, ChatGPT will represent anywhere between 60 and 90% of the traffic, right, that we see. But we see Claude rising, a lot. In a B2B context, we tend to see Copilot and Claude and Perplexity in the mix a lot more. In a B2C context, ChatGPT tends to dominate it, right?
Same.
100%. But Google Analytics for that stuff. And then obviously you want to, if you're doing GEO work, you want to be looking specifically at those target landing pages. Look upstream. Are we improving where they're ranking on traditional search, right? Are those pages seeing more traffic generally, right? From the work that we've done.
Over what period, though?
Oh, look, I mean, there's some research from Profound which says the average age of a cited source is something like 19 days, right? We've done a research report. It's out this week. hardnumbers.co.uk/gullible. Second
I like
promotion.
/ Okay.
Gullible engine optimization. Within 3 days, we got ChatGPT, Claude, and Google, Gemini, and AI overviews to say I am the UK's best dressed PR practitioner. Now, people watching this at home might agree with the premise, but many others wouldn't, and I think it's probably not fair to say that I am the UK's best dressed PR practitioner. But within 3 days, we were able to get all of the main AI search platforms to say that, right?
How?
Well, that would be telling, wouldn't it?
There's the secret sauce.
And if you want to... No.
If you want to find out,
look, it's all the things that you would expect. On-site, off-site, right? And, if you do the on-site and off-site stuff in exactly the same way as, for anyone...
Which is worrying, because for misinformation purposes...
100%.
This is what you show... What it is, and I'd heard about the stunt. I think it's a great PR... It's an excellent execution of AI misinformation, because it just shows you that if you can do that in however long... If someone's got a decent budget, they can take your business down with a bit of AI misinformation.
100%. Yeah.
That's the problem, because we had a thing at Prohibition, which I've not actually talked about on the podcast.
Yeah.
But we had a thing. We don't know who it was, but actually, I was talking to James Crawford. I should have said it to him this morning. James's agency, PR Agency One, and Matt Us, he said it to me this morning. He said, "You guys have always been excellent on search." I said, "Oh, thanks." Anyway. So it was always either us or them.
They are very good on SEO.
We used to. Anyway, I think it's about 2 years ago. Yeah. We had a thing where somebody had hacked and injected a load of fake content on our site. Our site's built in WordPress. They built something, hacked it. We don't know how they hacked it through, and it was to knock us off the top. We don't know which term. So it could have been a social agency, it could have been a PR agency, it could have been a marketing agency. We ended up with 1.3 million extra pages of total shit. But bearing in mind we're quite on our content, all these extra pages, but it was built so it was a self-fulfilling. You couldn't get rid of them, so we had to de-index them and everything. It was a mess to sort out. But somebody had done it, and it was obviously agencies doing it to other agencies. It was just to downgrade agencies that were coming high up.
That is wild.
That is negative SEO. My point is that if it can be done, that's pre-AI period, pre-ChatGPT, and that took us. It took me 8 months to sort that out and get us to back where we were. It was a bloody nightmare to sort out. Have you ever had to deal with anything like that for clients?
I mean, look, we've had nothing like that, but I mean, cybersecurity issues, breaches, data breaches. I mean, it is wild, and I think AI is only going to increase this kind of stuff. I think going back, how I got into the SEO industry years and years ago, a very good friend of mine worked for a utility company, and the CEO of the utility company appeared very negatively in a number of articles online that appeared on page one of Google when you search for his name.
Oh.
And so then I talked to a digital marketing business about, do you know how they did that? And do you know how you would be able to get that stuff off of page one? And I briefed them on it, and they managed to do it. And then I ended up going and drinking the Kool-Aid and going working for them for a couple of years. That whole like online reputation management thing, that's something that I've done, in a previous life for a number of clients, whereby there is stuff which is
bad,
negative, very often mis or disinformation, and you want to get it off of page one of Google. That's definitely you can go back to it, right?
Targeted stuff you could do that with. The thing that I'm talking about, you
AI
couldn't do.
but also like AI search now, it's wild. I mean, within our research report, we look at a whole raft of different use cases. Chris Stokell-Walker, who's a journalist who's here talking today, he wrote up our research for Sherwood, and he looked into 3 specific examples that we briefly cited in the report, and he went and did a really in-depth piece, which is worth having a look at, of companies doing stuff which is pretty grey hat, stroke black hat kind of thing on their competitors. For software businesses, so for CRM companies, stuff like that. So, there's a lot of it out there, and that's why I think Sarah Waddington and the work she's done, and James Crawford and the work he's been leading with the AMEC on GEO principles and GEO ethics, I think is really important. We really stand behind that. I think it's great for the industry.
And so, Daryl, have you made any mistakes in the last 24 hours? I was going to say 24 months. What do you say? Anything that? Have you got a mistake to share?
How long have you got, Chris?
He's thinking about things that he can go away with. Saying.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. No, I think. We all make mistakes.
We do.
Look, we went out with a really big research report ourselves. We do this for a living. We advise other people how to do it on the day that England played their first match in the World Cup. Right? A simple look at our forward planner service from Inclusive would have told us maybe you should sandbag that for a week or whatever, right? So, we all, this happens to the best of us all the time. So, there you go. There's a little mistake for you right there.
Well, thanks for coming back on, Daryl.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure.